Welcome, everybody. Welcome, you in the audience in Abu Dhabi. Welcome wherever you are all over the world to this session about educational startups. We are programming the German Stories, which is Germany as a guest of honor at the Abu Dhabi International Book Fair. Germany is the guest of honor in 2021 and in 2022. In 2021, we are presenting to you a digital program, a cultural program with authors, but also a professional program with topics of general interest about the publishing industry, to hear from speakers, from people in the publishing industry and in the adjacent industry, where they are, what the trends are, and when we're going, especially at the time of the pandemic. But we also have a stand at the Abu Dhabi Book Fair, and you can find us in Hall 8, stand A05, where we present to you books from Germany in all different kinds of genres, and you're welcome to browse through them. Maybe you find a title that you would like to translate and buy the rights for. As you probably know, the Abu Dhabi Book Fair also has a Spotlight on Rights program where publishers can ask and can apply for a subsidy to translate titles that they are buying at the Abu Dhabi Book Fair in person or virtually. So please come have a look at our books, and we are very happy to see you there. But now let's get back to our digital program, which we're preparing for you now. As you all know, at the times of the pandemic have been very stressful for all of us, and especially for kids, for parents, for teachers. Students couldn't attend school, homeschooling became a big thing, and startups in the educational scene bloomed and blossomed, and many were created. So today we want to speak to two entrepreneurs who came up with their own startups. So I would like to welcome you, Oliver Hengstenberg. He's a tech entrepreneur and has been for over 20 years. He's the CEO of the Munich-based company Cribster, which creates award-winning social creativity games for kids and is active in media education. Thank you very much for joining us today, Oliver.
Pleasure.
And we have Babar Baig. Babar is actually from Denmark. He has 15 years of startup experience and has worked with the Danish Telecom and the Society of Danish Engineers. He co-founded WriteReader, a scientifically based learning platform where K-12 students can create their own digital books while learning to read and write. Thank you for taking the time to be with us today, Babar.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Yeah, and my name is Claudia Kaiser. I'm from the Frankfurt Book Fair. I want to start off with asking you, first, Oliver, perhaps, what made you an entrepreneur? What was it that made you start Cribster, and what is Cribster all about?
Probably I'm an entrepreneur by heart. So I started already during my studies of computer science at the University of Munich. Started always freelance work with the latest technologies, and I was all very much like a tech aficionado. I really liked new tech and all the new stuff. So it was really in the .com time when I started always doing freelance work, already doing a lot of Java programming, and really always the interest on the newest things, newest technologies, newest possibilities. And the hard focus, the very focus on the kids games really started like 10 years ago when the iPad came out with all the new possibilities. And with my business partner, we started the gold rush times of the App Store, and we made a first painting app. And we got such great reviews and such a great feedback, and it really encouraged us a lot. And so we really followed that path and kept up developing more apps in this sector. And so with that, we won awards in the area. We got in the Munich area connected with different institutions, which really boosts very much and feels like really a good it makes really sense to work in this area. Very fulfilling. But then maybe later we come to the perspective how good the business really goes in the kids area. But this is the introduction part, how I came to getting an entrepreneur.
Okay. So Babar, you want to go ahead as well?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, thank you very much for having me. So basically, my own background, digital background and entrepreneurial background actually started after I worked at Society of Danish Engineers. We were a couple of friends who got together, and in 2005, we actually co-founded one of the first independent app stores where everybody could actually download apps through the web portal. So that was kind of a really infancy of the apps. Obviously, that got disrupted with Apple coming out with the iPhone in 2008, and that kind of led us to be in the app area as such. And I was doing these digital startups, and in 2012, I had a school teacher in Denmark who reached out to me saying that, hey, Babar, we have a big problem in education. 15 to 20% of all the students that leave 10th grade in Denmark are functional illiterate, meaning that they're struggling with basic reading and writing skills. Now, coming from an engineering and digital background, that was kind of very challenging for me. I remember one of the first questions I asked my partner, the school teacher, for how long have you been teaching our kids to read and write the way we do? And he was like, 250 years. And I was like, okay, I'm in, because obviously coming from a digital background, you can always find ways to make things better. So I quit my job and he quit his teaching job, and then we founded the company WriteReader. I have a small presentation. It will take me 5 minutes just to go through, and let me just try to walk you through our what we actually do. So WriteReader is basically a digital learning platform where students, they can become authors from an early age. When we talk about functional illiteracy, we actually spent 2 years in scientific research and found out why this is actually. So when it comes down to one factor, it's about motivation. So how can we motivate children from an early age so that they can realize what real life literacy is? And when they're 5, 7 years old and they have their first book in their hand, now they will realize that, okay, this is why we need to excel in reading and writing. So our goal is basically enabling kids to becoming proud authors from an early age, and basically show them how powerful the written language can be. So in one sentence, you can say that with WriteReader, you can practice all language domains: reading, writing, listening, and talking. But besides that, also presenting, collaborative, working with others, critical thinking. So our platform is based, it's a web-based platform. It's not an app which you download, so it works on all browsers, because we know that schools and parents are using different devices at home. And it scales automatically towards the device which you are using. Basically, it's a place for kids. They can have their digital portfolio of their self-created books. They can use any interest they have and create their own books and have a portfolio there where the teachers and parents can support them and provide them with feedback. This is how the tool looks like itself. And this is actually, last week we did an Arabic version of our tool where kids, they can import images, they can do audio recording, and then they can do a writing attempt, and then they can get feedback on the written language from teachers and parents. So in one sentence, I would say that WriteReader is a multi-modal book creation tool where we use images, voice, and text. And then at the same time, we have integrated with speech synthesis. And now we're working on a machine learning model as well. The idea is that kids, they have all sort of interests. They can take whatever image they want and start writing stories about that. It can be cats, dogs. It can also be about social emotional learning or environmental studies and whatever. The books can be printed out in the home printer, and we offer this to publishers in Denmark, in Switzerland, in Norway. We work closely with publishers and offer them our platform. We have learning efficacy on our platform. We know that kids who use our tool for 6 weeks, they can accelerate their literacy skills by almost 12%. And especially children from lower socioeconomic background, can excel even more. So this was an independent RCT study done by the Teachers College of Denmark with 200 students. We're now working on a large, one of a kind in the world machine learning project where we are following more than 1,500 children in a whole council in Denmark, and we've been following them since 2018, basically documenting and seeing how they're writing. And with this, we have a lot of data where we can actually combine this data and use that data to equip parents and teachers so that they can support the kids even more. So this is a very short introduction about WriteReader, what we do. We go directly to teachers, but we also go directly to publishers. And I would love to engage in a conversation as well, also on how the pandemic has what consequences it has had for the different segments.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think that's something we definitely need to discuss. Just one question: when you say you work directly, you go directly to the teachers and also to the publishers. What about the schools? How do the schools use your platform or your
services? We have built is a classroom product. Which teachers, they can sign up, they can create their own classroom, and then they can start right away with their students. So what we're seeing is that we're applying a bottom-up approach. So teachers use it. When we have a lot of teachers in the school, they typically go to the school leaders and say, hey, we want to buy a license for the whole platform, for a whole school license. And at the same time, when we see a lot of schools in a district, then they will typically go to the district level. So as an example of this strategy, in US, we have traffic from all states in the US. And last month, we closed a district-wide agreement with the largest district in the state of Maryland. So right now, we're onboarding 48 schools and 1,200 teachers. So the idea is to apply it to the teachers, and then they will take it to schools and districts, instead of going a top-bottom approach where you contact the districts. And that can be really painful and require a lot of resources being a startup. You need a lot of resources. So that's why we have picked the bottom-up approach.
Okay, yeah, that sounds really interesting. Oliver, Cribster. Tell us a little bit more about Cribster and how you work with schools.
Yes, on our side, it's like we have this portfolio of creativity apps. So when the iPhone came out, you instantly saw the trend starting. People really getting lost in the phones, playing for themselves, just consuming stuff, and a lot like playing just for themselves. And so we saw this picture of like consuming machines who are all by themselves alone. And this is why we wanted to exactly go against those two things. So to encourage in social play and to engage in creative play. And with this, we have different game mechanics based on painting. So it's good for kids from 5-6 years to in different aspects to communicate or to realize themselves in different ways. So one game where we got a subsidy was the paint duel, which is really fun because it has at that time, it's already some years ago, a nice new dynamic. So the innovation aspect is always important, and to really take the iPad not as something where you just put something from the real world and just put it on the iPad. This isn't good, isn't working. But really to take it as a new medium, use the new mechanics and make something new, something more valuable. And in this regards, it's a really nice tool. For example, the paint duo, you can play together. The algorithm at the same time on the iPad. So it's I heard in different institutions they use it as kind of an icebreaker, because when new people meet up, they have the games on the table, and then you just casually play against each other. It's about painting, it's creative, it's funny, and you log in, and then you get a rating how nicely and how quickly you did your painting. And so you really get very, very quickly into communicating. So there's different games for different situations, which are really nice. Or The other game is the Paint World, which is a bit higher scale. It's an infinite canvas where you can pick a tile, and everybody. So the idea is every child. It's highly monitored. So every child from the world can experience just with the iPad to connect all over the world with all cultures, with everybody, by just painting and connecting to each other. So it's you take a field and then you connect to the neighboring areas, and the algorithm takes care that it matches well. And so you get an infinite kilt-like picture, and we have like 10,000 more pictures in this area, and it's endless exploration and endless fun. So those are the mechanics we really motivated us very much. And on the other hand, it's hard in the games industry to really gain a lot of money with creativity apps or like pedagogical apps, because for parents, obviously, or teachers, it's easier to say, oh, with this app, my kid learns math and is better in school, and with this, okay, can paint better, or it's like socially better. So yeah, there's a bit a crux. But on the other hand, we get very much recognition and have a very good network in the area with educational institutions, and do a lot of consulting in the area. And with this, as we are professional software engineers, so we do high security apps on the other hand, and do software consulting for native mobile phones, and very in the high end area. So we set up the mobile support to set up the mobile development department for 1&1 example, which is in Germany, like one of the biggest 30 million users, the biggest provider. And with this area, we always do then project work in this area and support institutions which probably and sometimes not have so many funds. And because we're really very efficient, we can still help them to have really quick, simple solutions and still be very modern, to have mobile, to be very responsive, to be a mobile first, because many really have to do the step again. Like at the moment, we really just yesterday launched the new Flimmo. Maybe some people in Germany know it already, FLIMMO.de. It's for parents guidance to select good movies, good TV shows. And it's very high quality. It's around for 25 years. And it still very much had a portal aspect to it, only web-based. And we were very happy to make the transformation to go to mobile and do a nice agile project with the whole team and go forward with this. So there's the products, and on the other hand, we do the mobile consulting.
So Oliver, I just wanted to ask you, how do you work with schools directly?
On our part, we're not directly working with schools. We have different projects with institutions which support, for example, Kitas, like to supply them with iPads. And so for example, there's one institution, Studio im Netz, and they have their own group of kids who are writing news and articles. And we made an infrastructure for them to be like authors for themselves. And they have small apps for iOS and Android. And those they can do the self-publishing, like playing through, writing an article, collecting the data, the pictures, and publishing it on an app, and then seeing the results like published to the world, and everybody can read it on the apps.
So it's quite similar to what you do, Babar, yeah, in a way, even though you're publishing. I mean, they can do their own book, their real book, a printed book. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the pandemic. How has the pandemic? What kind of changes in your business has the pandemic brought for you? Babar, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, when we talk about the pandemic in general, I think that the consequences, we have not seen it yet. I think it will require more time for us to see where this will lead to. Obviously, there has been some short-term consequences, but when we talk about the whole long-term, I think we still have some areas where we will see that what kind of consequences it has had. For instance, the whole literacy gap, where, for instance, students in the US have been away from school for a whole year. What kind of consequences will that have? We still need to see if they will be able to recover or not, you know. But in terms of business, and when we talk about the pandemic, what we saw is that the markets where we had good presence, we saw a huge spike and increase in usage. So for instance, in Denmark, we're working with the largest publisher in Denmark. We are present in more than 60% of all the primary schools in Denmark. And when the pandemic hit, we saw a threefold increase in usage. Now, but in the markets where we didn't have that much attention, we didn't see any usage. And what we found out was that obviously teachers are very, very stressed. And many teachers are not digital as well. So the whole teacher feedback was that the tools which they had used previously and which they felt comfortable with, they started to use those tools. But they didn't have the kind of resources or the capacity in order to learn new tools because the time was not there. So whatever tool they actually knew on beforehand, they started to use those tools much more. But initially didn't have the kind of time and resource or neither they got that necessary training from schools and time in order to train into new tools. So that was what we saw. The markets where we already have traction, we increased by 3 times, and the markets where we didn't have that much traction, we didn't increase at all.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And for Cribster?
Yes, for obviously the digital products, there was a really good increase. A bit more in what I hear around with colleagues. There's really very high pitches going up, and yeah, obviously this is a good time for games, for online, for digital communication. For us, it was interesting because even the state of Bavaria offered a subsidy for a project for media literacy. So for kids to learn about misinformation, about bullying, because there was such a big shift, or is already a very big shift to do conversations, doing live online. And mostly the rules which apply in real life somehow get lost on the way to digital, like having respect, being nice to each other, thinking before you speak sometimes. So there was a nice project. We didn't win the project, but another nice company. And I'm really curious how this works, because this is one thing which got, especially for us in Munich, very obvious what I saw with the other institutions, what all the feedbacks we had in the media, that there's a big lack of media literacy, and it's not foreseeable that this improves very quickly. So I think, like Babar, it's a great project to support people to do early on. And then regarding the content, to get the kids even very important to the important topics about, like, for example, with the pandemic, the misinformation about the virus, the misinformation about, we have a very privacy first and really excellent app, which is state funded, which makes it like people doubt it a little bit, but it's really privacy first. It's like Apple and Google supported with the Bluetooth beacons. You have no context, it's completely anonymous, and it helps even to support when you get if you should have corona or COVID, you just do it anonymously, and you don't even need to send data to the Gesundheitsamt. So though they had too much to do already, there was a big lag in the digitalization too. As we saw, they still use the fax machines. So they say it improved already, but this is really what worried me a very lot, that in society the misinformation is so hard to come by, and because people really quickly can get lost in their own bubbles. They can just like block different news sources, and to have this this awareness about, oh, I'm thinking very much in this direction, I should have a look at the opposite direction, maybe there's a truth in the middle a little bit. This is what mostly I experienced during the pandemic.
Yeah, is that something that's also in Denmark? Is that also does that also play quite a big role?
I mean, you can say that a big difference in Denmark compared to rest of the world is that Denmark is a very, very digitized country. When we talk about as in general, all the mail, there's no physical mail, everything is digital for all the residents in Denmark, even elderly. You need to have a kind of like, you have a digital account where all information from the government is through your digital mailing system. And when we talk about education, specifically before the pandemic, all the digital curriculum was representing more than 50% in Denmark. This means that schools, they use more than 50% of all their curriculum is digital. And so you can say half would be analog books and half would be digital portals. That was before the pandemic. And now I'm quite sure we're up against maybe 80% of all the curriculum in the Danish schools, all the way from kindergarten to high schools, would be digital. So every child in Denmark have a Unicode, which they use to log in to their digital content and curriculum, and whatever things they do, the teachers can follow them and supported by the parents. So Denmark is generally a very, very digitized country, and you have internet accessibility in all schools in Denmark. So every child has. And when we talk about equity, even if the students are not able to, we have kind of a bring your own device strategy in Denmark. So every child, they bring their own device to the school. But if in terms of if the parents or kids, they're not able to afford it, then obviously that will be provided by the school. So yeah, in general, Denmark is a very digitized country, I would say, and the trust is very high to the government as well. So now, if the government says wear mask, everybody wears mask. If the government says schools are off, they have support in general, you can say.
Wow, it's not quite like that in Germany, is it, Oliver?
It isn't.
Yeah.
It seems like quite the opposite. Yeah.
And obviously also when we talk about parents versus teachers, the parents are actually looking for advice from the teachers. Okay, what apps should we use at home? What tools? They are actually expecting the schools and teachers to kind of put the stamp on credibility and say we use this, because if you just go on the App Store, you will find 100,000 apps within the education categories, and parents doesn't have the necessary skills to see what is good, what is bad. Just because something looks good on a device doesn't mean that it has learning value. Just the point which Oliver also mentioned, that the social play and the creativity, and that's where we need to be heading, instead of popping ABC balloons on a different planet. Has no learning value for the kids. We actually have a professor in Denmark from the Pedagogical University, and he used to say that in best case scenario, the students will not become stupid if they use all these standard apps from the App Store. And that is also why I personally believe that Apple and Google have a huge responsibility, not only to look at design when they approve app, they should be looking at the learning value when they approve apps on the App Store.
Yeah, Oliver?
That's a great point, because I would love that they could do it. I tried to contact Google, Apple in these regards, because I got requests about in the educational area, can you help me with a list of valuable apps which are really like, this is good for teaching, like having a real valuable in a specific area. And when you look in the App Store, you get like, okay, this is for this age, and it's all very colorful, and this is for action, and this is for, but it's not, there's a gap in this area. And I feel like it's, if I foresee it would be challenging for Apple and Google. I would welcome it if they could do it. I'm not sure if they have the competency to do it or want to take the responsibility for that. And what I'm seeing is in the area, we have like subsidized projects by institutions to fill this gap. You have on one part, you have it commercially, like your blog and people who do discussions about nice apps. This is like from the beginning, from the App Store. It's really a mess. It was in the beginning finding stuff, and it improved. But I think in the very specific area for teaching, we still have there's a lot to fill to have really structure. In Germany, you would love to have something for teachers to have, okay, I have this curriculum in the different Bundesländer, and then just pick the apps, and then you can decide, but those apps are really near with the curriculum. There's a lot of companies who try to do this. I heard a few which are successful, which already sold out, so sold it, but especially in Germany, it's not yet foreseeable that this is possible as far as I can see, and I don't see it to having a digital curriculum with saying you have to fulfill these criteria with your apps or with your platform, and then it's okay for the schools, and then you get funding. This is completely not here at the moment. I would wish for it.
Yeah. Talking about funding, not everyone in the audience who will listen to it in Abu Dhabi and on the different channels will be familiar in how you get your funding. Could you tell us a little bit about that? Babar?
Yeah, so we are kind of self-funded as such. We participated in some early accelerators back in 2015 in Silicon Valley, and we got Intel Education on board as an investor as well. And we got some strategic funding from the Danish publisher, whom we have an agreement with. But it's not like that we have been on a ride to get venture capital, raising Series A or Series B round. That has not been our mission as such. We're like more like mission driven. We would like somebody on board who understand the long-term value as well. And it's not just about showing some good numbers and then doing an exit in 2 years' time. So we have picked a strategy where we say, okay, we want to be a company where we can show learning value and where children can develop their literacy skills. And that is basically our main focus here. And so we have gotten some funding in terms of from the Danish Innovation Fund in order to do this machine learning project and things like that. But other than that, we're kind of self-funding with the license agreements which we have around the world.
Mm-hmm. And do you said you have agreements around the world. That's also some very interesting and something that I would also like to talk a bit about the international cooperation. But coming back to the funding, and the business model behind it is the funding, and at the same time you're selling the services to the school. So is there a subscription fee or a user fee?
Yeah, so the business model, when we talk about our agreements with publisher, is a yearly license fee, and then we provide them with a white label solution, which we call it. So this is a branded solution in the publisher's name, deployed on the publisher's domain. So, but we manage, we support, we do everything. But on the front end, it just looks like that this is the publisher which is offering a version of WriteReader. Mm-hmm. And then our straight model, where we go directly to teachers, especially in the US, through WriteReader.com. teachers can sign up for a free account, and if they would like to utilize our premium features or create more than 60 books, then they can upgrade. So that's purely a SaaS model which we're applying towards teachers.
Okay. And Cribster, how does that work with you? Funding and the...
Actually, in our area on state and nation level, there was some movement. So here in state in Bavaria, there's when you're in the games area, there's a nice funding possibility with the FFF, the Film and Fernsehfonds, and they have a games funding too for making concepts, for creating prototypes and doing production, which then I think already goes up to a few $100,000. And this pattern for us worked nicely at the time with the paint duel, and we got the prototype subsidy, and this really helped us to realize the project. And with this, then we won a German Computer Game Award, which had like I think 70,000 euros as well for the winners, and this helped us really a lot to expand the company a bit. What's really nice on the other hand in Germany, a development from last year, end of last year, is the nationwide games funding. So when you have at least some game mechanics in the educational area, this could be like in the serious game sector, this could be really interesting, and this goes up to I'm not sure at the moment how many in the millions area this goes, and yeah, this helps a lot, and I know a lot of colleagues who use this to really do a solid plans for the next 3 years, to do good calculations, and helped out very much.
Mm-hmm. And what about investors in your case?
In our case, we are really we had some connections and some talks, but we really were just happy with being self-funded and really having the control on ourselves, and especially as it is not a very specific, it's a portfolio of games we have, but we still it's driven a bit more idealistic. So we really want to define and be flexible, and don't want to be revenue focused, but want to be idea focused in this area and still make it work, which is a challenge, but which, yeah, as you know, if you're self-funded, you got your freedoms. You know, on the other hand, you might get a lot of work and more layers of overhead for managing your company, where you really have to see if it's worth it. So if you get like 40 people, 100, 200 people, like getting a big company, sure. But for us, it's really, we were happy to be in a fast, small team.
Mm-hmm. And Babar also mentioned about international corporations. Do you have that as well? Cribster?
So international corporations, not directly. So we obviously our apps are all international, and so when we do development work, obviously we work with companies all over the world. Currently, we are working with the team in Hungary, and so this is for development work, which is, especially in these times, it's all when you do software, it's really all remote work and building up the teams. That's
okay. Babar, you want to tell us a bit more about your international corporations?
Yeah, so I mean, early on when we made the agreement in Denmark, like we made an exclusive agreement with the leading publisher in Denmark, then we couldn't really do anything more in Denmark besides supporting our publisher. So we quickly kind of looked abroad. And you can say that Denmark is a much smaller country, so you're much more kind of dependent on having an international strategy. I can understand that Oliver doesn't, because obviously Germany is a huge market, so you have enough within that huge market, right? So, but in Denmark, we need to have an international strategy also as a startup, because Denmark is not a big enough market as such. So we focused a lot on US. Currently, we have publisher agreements in Norway. We have 3 in Switzerland as well. And then we are talking with some Arabic large publishing groups as well, looking to scale, to see, because it's easy for us to localize our platform into other markets. So currently on the direct side, we have Bulgarian, Polish, Norwegian, Swedish, Spanish languages enabled on our platform. So we are seeing traffic and users from more than 40 countries around the world who are using our platform on the direct side. So what we're seeing is that the SaaS model is working good for us. So we would be able to, when we can see an early traffic rise. So for instance, this year we saw a traffic rise in Poland, which is now our 3rd largest market. But we didn't have a Polish version of our app. So now we have making a Polish version and trying to focus a bit more. Same thing with Bulgaria and Russian languages. And now we are seeing a lot of traffic from Turkey as well. So we're thinking about of localizing our platform into these languages as well. But it's really up to how we see the interaction on our platform, and then we take a decision. We typically evaluate when entering a new market is that, okay, how is the digital penetration look like? How is the school curriculum? How does that look like? And do they have a focus on 21st century skills? And a couple of more factors before we really decide if we want to go into that market or not.
Okay. And Arabic, since we are here at the Abu Dhabi International Book Fair and we're producing this for the Abu Dhabi International Book Fair, you said you are in talks with Arab publishers to see where you can cooperate. And how early did you start looking at the Arab world?
Yeah, so it actually started with that we have Ambassador Network. Ambassador Network is on our website, all the teachers who are in love with WriteReader and they want to become an ambassador. So they write blog posts, they help us in development and things like that. And here we have ambassadors from Egypt as well, teaching English in the English schools in Egypt. And we saw that they were using this for Arabic as well. And we made them write or the teacher wrote a blog post about how our tool could be used as a diagnostic tool for Arabic students. And that blog post was widely distributed in Egypt, and the Ministry of Education in Egypt, they reached out to us. One of the larger publisher group, they reached out to us because they have not seen a tool like this for the Arabic language before, and they were showing interest. So recently we just are in talks with one of the larger groups in Egypt in order to see if we can launch this for the Arabic community.
Okay, yeah, it would be good to see more cooperation in all the sectors, whether it be publishing or the startup sector. Oliver, do you have any connection with the Arab world so far?
So we have our apps in the store, but no direct connection sadly yet. So
you're still looking out to see how you can get more traction on the Arab market. Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, we met Babar. We got to know each other through colleagues who work for Content Shift and the Accelerator program, which is a German program, and it's organized by the German Publishers and Booksellers Association. What kind of a role do these Accelerator programs play for your startups?
I think they play a huge role. The value which they can add to a startup is really, really a lot. One thing that you don't have as a startup is resources. You have limited resources, and you always need to prioritize how you would use your resources in order to move to the next level. Now, these accelerators can provide you with the resources. So for instance, they can open up a network to you in that specific market. For instance, if the accelerator network is not there, and let's say, okay, I want to go into the German market, I will have to do my own R&D. I will have to reach out to all the partners, potential partners. And that is a process which can take years. But that time frame can be shortened significantly if you are part of an accelerator, because all the connections are there already. All the network is already accessible to you through the accelerator. So we have used the accelerator as a growth strategy for our startup. And that is also how we have gotten our publisher agreements in Switzerland and traction in the US. That is through the accelerator networks. And the content shift was obviously huge for us as well, as we won the competition and the Frankfurter Buchmesse as the most innovative company. So that gave us a lot of credibility in the German market as well. And we actually have a German version now, which is launched in Switzerland, and hoping to find the right partner in the German market. So the challenges for the German market for us a couple of years back, obviously now due to the pandemic, it might have changed, was the internet penetration in German schools. Which was very, very low back then. So I was having conversations with the leadership team of Westermann Gruppe and Cornelsen and all the big publishing groups in Germany. And they were saying to me, hey, we like WriteReader a lot, but who do we sell it to? Because schools don't have Wi-Fi. So it's also about timing, has to be right, so we will definitely look into the markets again and see if we can utilize our established network through these accelerators in order to reach out again.
Okay. Have you benefited from those accelerators, Oliver, as well?
From those ones, not
yet.
So we had the subsidies I told you about, and as we are in the gaming sector rather, with mobile apps, so we go to Bologna each year to the book fair. Frankfurter Buchmesse is there too, and so the whole circle of the Game International mobile kids apps developers, it kind of established that every year meets in Bologna kind of, and get some pasta, and you really, this is how the business works. You know what is going on, how the trends are about the big brands. You get some beers with the people and some pasta, and you can plan ahead, and you get kind of like mini meetups with Apple engineers, really one-on-one and with Google, and you get very much guidance in the sector, though so they are really supporting the area, even if the business is a bit hard. So bigger companies come and go kind of, but there's some which are still always around, have big brands, big licenses. And so this is like kind of a flourishing society all over the world. And then, there's other occasions in New York and in California, which are kind of established, where everybody meets again and again. The industry is not as you know, in certain areas, it's not so many people in the end.
Small world. Yeah. Yeah, so you said, Babar, that your business has, in the markets where you have traction, has grown 3 times, and in some markets where you don't have traction, it hasn't grown. But I mean, all together, it has grown. So where do you see your challenges for the next few years?
I think that the challenges are that a general challenge is that teachers, all right, we have a classroom product which is dependent on teacher adaptation. So we cannot reach the kids if we cannot get the teachers on board. So the teacher training is very, very important, and so that the teachers get more digitized. So one of the challenges would obviously be, in order, if we need to increase our adoption, is that the teachers get the necessary digital training so that they can use digital products in general. Obviously, many teachers are really good at it and can use different kind of digital tools, but that's definitely one of the challenges. Generally, when we develop something, we only ask one question, and that is, will this feature make the life easier for the teacher or not? Because teachers are stressed, they have limited time. So if you want to propose them a digital solution for their classroom, it has to have learning value, it has to be easy to use, it has to be very, very efficient. Because if you cannot onboard the teachers, they won't use it with their kids. So that's a challenge for everyone when they want to develop something for the classroom, is to have teachers on board recommending your product. And that's luckily what we're seeing in the US market. We are seeing growth, and we're seeing happy teachers who are talking to each other and introducing WriteReader. So yeah, so the teacher part is a big challenge. And obviously, I mean, it's not like that the market is open. You know, EdTech has been very competitive also before the pandemic. And what we all are competing against is, again, the teacher's time, because how many tools can a teacher implement in the classroom? We are competing with the teacher's time. So teacher's time is within a subject, you know. So it's not like that we're only competing against other writing tools or other book publishing tools. No, we're competing against all digital tools, whether it be math, science, whatever, and obviously teachers' time, you know.
Yeah. The publishing industry also sees that, or identifies that as its big competitor, at its biggest competitor, the time, people's time, and all the different tools and all the different games and all the different media they can use. Yeah. Oliver, your biggest challenges ahead?
Yeah, at the moment, it's really, so we are very much connected and focused on the German markets. And there to see solutions from the colleagues which are a little bit more with the curriculum, which are already very, very tightly games connected to the curriculum, and how hard it is for them. It's kind of an observation mode we are in, because the Germany is moving so slowly regarding just accepting digital products as support and budgeting things like this. We are still very much having this issue about physical school books. How much, like Baba, you said, the Westermann, the Carlsen, it's like the three big who have really tight control about this, which is good on the one hand. On the other hand, like big companies, innovation, it's always a little bit of a challenge. So I'm really curious how this develops. So that smaller companies, at the moment, I don't see it, that smaller companies in Germany have really a good chance to get into the school systems. That there are a few, like Anton, and there are some very specific ones, which are, with the pandemic, there was an urgent need to quickly find something to get the kids, not like to print out your papers you already had. And some teachers did that and just sent over via email or even via WhatsApp, what you shouldn't touch as a teacher, Signal maybe, but yeah, and for communication. And then just the transition on mobile, and the opportunities to have a different kind of learning, which is not like linear and face-to-face, and there's the switch classroom, and there's the different approaches, which many people which I met already tried and are really, really energetic about it, and it's really nice. But it's really very, very dynamic. And in Germany, it's a lot of like, the DIN norm. You have to have something which is really fixed, and this is the way you can do it, and this is good, and everybody recognizes it. And we are at the moment very much in flux in this regards. And I hope innovation has a good chance there. At the moment, I'm not so hopeful, but I'm still optimistic. But regarding the base work to get funding for schools to invest in apps, in digital goods, to support, to try out to work with the curriculum, there's a big need for that. So this is, we have different ideas, but at the moment we didn't really jump onto this because it's many companies coming and going, and it's for years. So like there was kind of an equal product you had, Babar. It's already 5-6 years ago, and so I think there's big opportunity. Like you say, what you mentioned, it feels like really very, very solid going ahead. Luckily, you don't depend 100% on the German market, so otherwise you would have to plan for many, many years, probably. But what we do is actually, when we have ideas, so when we see, for example, the misinformation in Germany, or the lack of digitalization, or different educational aspects, we try to transform them in apps and games which are easily accessible for many people, and to really tackle the misinformation aspect. For example, like how do vaccines work? How incredible is our society that we can now really do mRNA vaccines? This is like incredible scientific work over many decades. For the science procedure is incredible, and this often gets lost in people's minds, and for a reason to be really skeptic, and this is all good, but to completely lose the trust, there's a very big situation in our society. So this is something which I'm really driven by, and I see there is a market for sure. At the moment, Germany is like, I think, more than 50% state finance, which is kind of critical too. But on the other hand, for companies which have ideas like educational things, we might have very good chances for more subsidies in this area. So I think this is kind of the direction we're heading at the moment.
Okay. Right, we are coming to the end of our time, but I have one last question, because we are at a book fair, and as you probably know, in most of the Arab countries, the book fairs are often used to sell books, as opposite the Frankfurt Book Fair, which is about selling rights or dealing with rights, trading rights. Many book fairs in the Arab world are about selling books. So what do you think, and the publishers in the pandemic? As you also know, some areas, some countries have benefited, like New Zealand or Australia, where the publishing industry has grown. In Germany, let's say, we saw a little decline, and we still have to catch up. But altogether, compared to other countries like India, or even also the Arab world, we've done pretty well. So, what do you think? Where's publishing going?
I mean, it's hard to say where publishing is going. Obviously, we are into edtech and can see that the digitalization would obviously grow. That's for sure. And I think it's a question about, when we talk about educational publishers in the Arab world, is that how fast they will adapt to digital. That's the main question, right? So, and obviously many publishers also in Western Europe are kind of postponing the digital transformation. They realize that at some point we will eventually need to be there, but they're trying to postpone it and say, how long can we deal with the analog, and then stay analog with our curriculum. I think that the most successful publishers would be the ones that do a blended mix of analog and digital, because one thing we should remember is that digital is not about replacing analog business. Digital is about adding value to the analog. And that's how we see the especially within education curriculum. It's not about having physical books. So for instance, in Denmark, what they're doing and how they are doing a blended version is that kids are still using, let's say they have a physical book, they're reading about animals. And now the teacher, once they're finished reading the book about animals, the teacher will say, okay, now it's your turn to use WriteReader and write a book about your favorite animal and present it to the rest of the classroom. So you're actually combining the analog together with digital, where you're giving and providing a blended experience for the students. So this is a great way where digital can add value to the analog. So I think that the publisher needs to realize that the digitalization is not a threat. They should see it as an opportunity.
Thank you. And Oliver?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'd love to see the switch to digital, really, but before the pandemic, the last status was kind of the publishers really the books is what is working. People want to have something, and especially in the games industry or the kids apps industry, it kind of established that you can release a book, publish a book, and then you have probably an app as an add-on. And this works quite nicely as like a marketing tool. This was what seemed to really work for people, but not really having an app and then there are books around it. I think there's possibilities for this, but there's like a big company in Germany with a Matrose, and they are actually going from apps back to TV and to book printing. So regarding the mixture of the media, I think like Babar said too, it's really the mix is interesting. In Germany, especially not being afraid of digital, because we over many years learned that Windows and viruses and Google is evil and all this misinformation things, and never people tried out to work together in a Google Docs and saw how easy you can work and organize your data and don't move around Word documents and emails. And so there's really different kinds of work and possibilities. For us, I see there's still much years of learning.
Okay. Well, yeah, so there's a lot to be done. Thank you very much, Oliver and Babar, for giving us some insights into your businesses and the way you work and the way you work with publishers as well. So thank you for sharing with us. And we hope that there will be more cooperation between Europe and the Arab world, also in the world of startups and especially in the educational zone. So thank you very much. And thank you, audience, for being here, for listening to us. And I hope we gave you some valuable insights as well. All right, take care, keep safe, and please come to our booth and look at our books. We also might have some digital products there. Okay, bye-bye.